their rhetoric was just generally very weak and inconsistent. The United States and Israel dispatched diplomats to shore up the shaky situation.
Dynamics evolving, developing.
At protests that weekend,
The Egyptian police existed not to fight crime and to investigate other sorts of crimes. It existed to keep down the proliferation.
SCAF is operating beyond the range of institutional checks or constraints. This is not an autocratic regime reconstituting themselves. What this is are political elites, and they are extremely intent on reconfiguring executive power, much in the same way that authority operated during the tenure of Hosni Mubarak.
There is this just very open anger, particularly at things like the military trials of civilians. They really have come to see the SCAF as a continuation of the old order, of the old regime.
Political elites or counter-elites, even if they are new, are actually not a attractive lot. I wouldn't trust them.
What we have been seeing is a continuity of patterns of hegemony, but a change in individuals. So you find that the names have changed, but we still do business as usual.
The interim government, headed by Prime Minister Sharaf, is essentially a non-factor. I mean, I see it as really an administrative arm of the SCAF. They're implementers to a great degree. They're administrators and bureaucrats and technocrats. They're not policymakers. Policy is held very, very tightly. It's concentrated in the hands of the SCAF.
The judiciary is in a sense united. And yet, they're now one of those institutions that is trying to develop its own law about how to reorganize itself. And the old divisions of the last decade are coming out in full force.
SCAF has and will continue to be the executive authority beyond the parliamentary elections in November.
It would be a big surprise if it were not a deeply fragmented parliament with a wide spectrum of parties represented, a wide spectrum of ideological tendencies, in some rough groupings certainly, but also a large number of independents without necessarily a pronounced ideological orientation themselves.
Even after those elections, SCAF maintains the authority to appoint the constitutional delegations, or at least have veto say over who in the assembly gets to be on the constitutional delegation.
The important questions that actually mobilized the people are not being addressed. Questions about economic justice, questions about what do you mean by a democratic system, who should be allowed in, who should not be allowed in.
Political parties are forming almost daily. They're a dime a dozen now. I don't think that Egyptian workers are going to be transferring their loyalties and their trust to these political parties. I think they're going to choose to stay in-house. And not just, they're not going to try to federate into some major federation, because they know from bitter experience that the moment you federate, the quicker it is for the SCAF and whoever's in executive power to control you from the top down.
It is true we don't know who's going to be writing the Constitution. We don't really quite know how they're going to do it. They will focus on emotional and symbolic issues, and they already have. What's the role of Islam in the Constitution?
When people went out on the streets in the 25th and for those 18 days, they were neither calling for an Islamist state, nor were they rebelling against a religious rule.
The Muslim Brotherhood, which as everyone I think knows, it's evolving, it's developing. In some cases, it's fissuring. The left/liberal/youth movement, I think, has become more suspicious in light of the perceived alliance between the Brotherhood and the military.
When things get bad, we opt for calling for demonstration in Tahrir Square. I, for one, started to think that Tahrir is a liability. We keep going back and forth there, and, when people are like, okay, isn't there anything else that we can do?
When a group of citizens gets on a street corner to demand something, that to me is the essence of politics and always has been. We're going to continue to see this, and this is going to be literally the DNA of Egyptian politics for the next 10 years, as it has been for the past 10 years.
Authoritarianism and security measures are deeply insinuated in all aspects of the Egyptian legal order. It will take a decade or more of concerted effort to kind of weed this out, even if there were the political will and vision to do that.